can send you to Skyana if you want to have like the sheet as well. But I just felt it would be easier for me to use like a Google form as we score you guys tonight.
Yeah, no, I definitely like that because then I was telling them I can like send that to judges like a generalized one, and I can be like, oh yeah, in case you don't know what you're doing. Here we go.
ChatGPT is amazing, guys. Like I made that rubric in like 2 seconds flat. It was awesome. Okay. So super easy. I love we all hate AI, but damn, do I love AI. Like that was
Who
just
hates AI?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't hate AI.
You don't? You're not
Am
afraid
I
of
supposed to?
the robots coming for your job? That's not
Oh, the clankers? The clankers
Yeah.
are coming?
Bro.
The clankers.
The
You're not
clank-
afraid of that?
It makes me so happy that I was here when the Clone Wars made that term famous.
I will fight for my people to have their jobs, and we will fight against the. But I like AI though. I want a little pocket assistant.
I see. Listen, you got to be careful, okay? Okay, robot slavery. You're going to start off with your robot slave, but they may end up enslaving you, okay? We all see I know how the Isaac Asimov novel ends, okay? It doesn't end well for the You are?
I'm anti-automation. I do not want. I don't want. I don't want to put workers out with robots. I like my cashiers and my like people taking my order. I like having workers. I like low skilled jobs. I like people being out and about. I don't like robots being everywhere. So I promise you, we're on the same side there.
Okay.
I saw this video of this guy. He's a chef at a breakfast restaurant, and it was him just like cooking in the back during a rush. And so many of the comments were, why don't we tip the chefs? Why do we tip the people that are bringing out the food?
The chefs.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was fucked.
Okay, so I put my form, I guess, out on the tweet. I don't know how this happened. I have 2,150 responses to this Google form. How is that even responsible? Is somebody botting like this?
What?
This is insane. Here, I'm going to show you what I'm looking at, okay? Look at the group chat. Somebody's trying to bot my score sheet. This is crazy. Look.
Oh my god.
Really?
Yes, they are.
No, that's insane.
It doesn't show that on mine.
Like, I'm looking here. It says 2,200. This is not possible. Okay, somebody's trolling this. I don't know how this is happening. This is insane.
That's a weird thing. That's a weird thing to bot, though. Like, why would you bot?
Yeah,
it is a weird thing to bot.
I don't know.
Maybe it's just getting hits. Maybe you made a good rubric.
I don't know. I don't think so. This is like
maybe it's us fucking going viral, bro. This is how we made it. Your fucking Google Doc.
All right, you had Zero Fucks' graph go crazy last week, so maybe people like the analytics.
Bro, I'm telling you, it's the future. All right, let's do this now. Welcome to the Bait Fish Championship Series. We're gonna have a fantastic matchup today. Would Superman join us? Start us off, Tyler. Tell us who you are, where you're from, all that good jazz before we kick it off.
Average debate enjoyer. I'm from America, and I know what the American way is that Superman would be out here preserving to maintain. So we're going to get into that bad boy. But you can check me out on YouTube. I just moved over. I could use the bumps up in support so I can get up to 500 and start doing all that fun shit. So let's go.
All right. Thank you so much. Scott, tell us who you are, where to find you.
All right. I go by Sociologic.
I'm glad your name's Scott. But you go next.
Sorry about that.
You can go. That's fine.
Yeah, so I go by Sociologic. I am the child of immigrants, defender of truth, justice, in the American way. Here to show my friend here, Tyler, to the proper defense. So let's do this.
It's minus 10 points for not listening to the moderator. No, I'm just kidding. All right, Scott, go ahead.
I'm Skyana. I play a lot of Valorant, and I do IRL shit, and I am a streamer on Twitch.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Vaguely.
Hi guys, I'm a tweeter. I'm on Twitter. Okay, I like to rant there. If you'd like to read my rants or yell at me back, I am there at @DaRealFQ.
All right, thank you so much. All right, let's kick it off. Let me just pull up the timer. And We can do this. All right, go ahead whenever you are ready. Who's taking the affirmative?
I am.
Okay, let me just put the stopwatch on. All right, and go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right, so today we are gathered here to discuss would Superman join ICE in their holy righteous movement to expel the illegal threat, the invasion from their country that is brought here, propping up a terrorist organization working against the interests of the American people. Absolutely resoundingly yes. So to go through some of his history, we're going to look at canonical Superman, and starting off with the Golden Age. The character was literally a piece of U.S. propaganda used during wartime. It was not just abiding by the law, as we see, but as with current examples with ICE, but also it was to pursue foreign policy goals and the goals of the executive branch at the time, extra of just what the law was. I have dozens of examples, but the most clear-cut was Action Comics from 49 to 60, a run called Supermen of the Army, where the entire comic was just highlighting real soldiers and having Superman meet them and boosting morale, trying to get more people to join the military. Superman was literally government propaganda. There was also the Superman Tim Club, which encouraged children to purchase war bonds, salvage scrap, and help around the house when Dad was out to war. So this was a character meant to further pursue the actions and direct goals of the United States government at the time. It's pretty cut and dry. That's what he was created as. A nationalist in nature with some populism and mixed in there as well. It seems like a perfect fit for this administration. Anyways, getting into the Silver Age, post-World War II, we see a little less of Superman working directly with the big government, and more he moves into the battle against communism. So he's on board with the United States foreign policy, which is something that is definitely a political argument. It's not something written in stone in the Constitution. It's not following laws in the books. He was on board with the foreign policy of the United States, fighting against communists. He was out there aiding spies that were attacking communists or spying on them, trying to get information. He helped people out of different situations against communism. The original Superman race with the Flash comic had them actually postpone their race so they could go after a criminal foreign element backed by a foreign nation. Kind of like what we would see with Venezuela having criminal Tren de Agua people in the United States waiting for orders to cause chaos. It's a very similar situation because these groups are called terrorist organizations at this point. Superman works with the authorities, big and small. He works with the troops, he works with spies, and he is on the United States side during the Cold War, spitting United States military propaganda. Now, if you go into some of the policies used at the time to bring this back to real life, some of the things that we were using to expel communists from the country at the time were the AEA, the Alien Enemies Act, and the INA of 1952. And these are the same things the Trump administration is using right now to expel illegal immigrants from the country. So it's the exact same laws being used to kick people out today that they were using to expel communists when Silver Age Superman was clearly on the side of the United States, capitalism, Western liberalism, and anti-communist as can be. So there was a very direct parallel. We move into post-crisis or modern era Superman, and that's... We see all sorts of examples of Superman working with the government there, but he's also not as affiliated as he was. The thing is, Superman, this is what begins the connection with Star Labs. Star Labs is a secret, deep state, military-funded lab working at the highest level secretly in the government to advance the goals of the United States government. Superman was essentially a member of the CIA, if not a step above the CIA at that point in the comics. Now, I imagine that the argument he's going to go with is that the United States government is actually corrupt under Trump, they're doing bad things, etc., etc. So I have countless examples that we're going to go through of different judges and the political party that was bringing these illegal immigrants in, how they were allowing certain things. One of them is going to be the slam dunk case where a former judge in... Oh shit, my camera fucked up, I'll get it in a second. A former judge... had 2 illegal immigrants in Tren de Agua staying with him. He was harboring them illegally, abusing the court system to keep them there. On top of that, he gave them his family members guns. He was advising them on how to not get caught for their crimes that they had on their cell phones. And then when the police came after him, he broke one of their cell phones, attempting to break the second one as well. This judge is now under arrest for aiding Tren de Agua gang members in a shooting that took place with guns that he gave him. And I have countless examples of judges and politicians disobeying the law to protect criminals from coming here. And I have lots of examples of Superman not liking that red tape as well. So we'll see how this goes, but I'm pretty sure that's all I got for my opening right now.
All right, thank you so much. Social Logic, whenever you're ready.
All right. So the thing about Superman is, it's not just the guy with the S on his chest, right? Superman and Clark Kent are the same person. You can't separate them, especially for the particulars of this debate. So Clark Kent is literally an undocumented alien who had his parents harbored him. They forged his papers. They adopted him. They gave him a name. They raised him. He grows up like this is the exact person that ICE would want to deport and kick out, and then arrest his parents for harboring a fugitive, right? This is like, that's not how it goes. And this is why Superman stands for truth, justice, and the American way. The American way isn't the American government, right? We separate here, like the government from the people, because we know that the government can be corrupt, not at all times, but that it can be. And that's why we have to look at Clark, because in this regard, Clark becomes a journalist, right? Clark doesn't become a cop. He doesn't become a military age sergeant. He doesn't become a politician. He becomes a journalist. And what do journalists do? They don't wield power. They hold it accountable, right? He's there to expose corruption. He's not there to support it. Superman is a vigilante. He doesn't work within. He never asks permission to be like to protect and serve the law. He just does it. He goes across borders all the time. He defies governments. he in the latest movie, he goes to Barovia and I don't know the names because I'm not particularly from, but he goes to Barovia and Jaunpur. Those aren't within his jurisdiction. He's not like a leader or allowed to do any of these things. He clearly doesn't care about government. He cares about justice. Justice isn't government rule. Justice is with the people. So when we ask, would Superman support ICE? The answer is it's written into who he is. Superman would not side with an armed, unaccountable force that targets the undocumented. People like him who simply want to live, work, and just belong, he would stand with them because Superman's story is their story. The debate isn't about Superman, whether he supports law and order. It's about whether he supports justice. His history and his canon and common sense all point to the truth that Superman stands with the people, not with ICE.
Is that it?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, fight. You're muted, Tyler, if you're talking.
I got some rebuttals I wrote down to your introduction. It wasn't that long. I was expecting to get a little bit more out of you. But
No.
So Superman, you can contextually say he's an illegal immigrant because he wasn't born here, but he's not the illegal immigrant in the traditional sense that our laws are equipped to handle. He didn't cross the border illegally. He didn't come from. He's not the citizen of another nation that is coming here. There's nowhere to return him to. This is an orphan, so he was taken in. Granted, yes, it's not good that his paperwork was forged, absolutely, but he understood that this was an issue, that's something he needed to hide because he didn't want to get his family, friends, and whatever in trouble.
In the same way that illegal immigrants would hide their documentation and lie about it because they have to protect their families and themselves. So just because he doesn't come from another country doesn't mean he's not living the exact same life one-to-one. Clark Kent is an undocumented immigrant with forged papers. His parents are harboring a fugitive. Just because he's Superman and comes from another planet doesn't mean he's not doing the exact same thing. What's the difference between him and someone taking a Mexican child?
This wouldn't be a fugitive in this instance. This would be somebody.
But he is, though. And
it takes two crossing the borders for you.
His parents wouldn't go to jail for harboring a fugitive?
It'd be civil at that point. No, I don't know if the laws would apply the same way because he didn't cross the border.
Well, we need to figure that out because why won't the laws apply the same way? Just because he comes from another planet?
Yes.
So we're limited to borders, and we're limited to borders on our Earth.
Yes.
Why?
Because the laws are written in a certain structure to say that if you came from another nation, then you were the citizen of that nation. So I don't think our laws adequately cover this. I think
Krypton isn't a nation that he's a citizen of.
It wouldn't be part of the United States. It wouldn't be part of the deals we worked out with these specific nations. Some nations have free travel. Some nations don't. Like, it's not like he has anywhere to go back to because he is not the traditional alien that comes into the United States. He's an extraterrestrial. In a way, he's the illegal immigrant laws that we have don't fully cover his situation. So just saying it's the same when there's that giant gap that he didn't actually cross any borders or come here illegally from a nation that he's actually the citizen of, it's a bit different. I think you're kind of letting that obfuscation do a little bit of heavy lifting for you on that specific point.
I mean, I think his parents would still suffer the same exact legal consequences for harboring a fugitive, forging documents. They lied about having a social security. Where do they adopt them from? There's a whole situation. So at minimum, ICE would be trying to arrest his parents. Or the government would be trying to arrest his parents. At minimum, they'd have to. Unless you're saying that the law means nothing just because he's Superman, which if you want to give it up to that, that's fine. But then Superman doesn't stand with that.
I don't
Superman
think
stands for justice, and that isn't justice.
Even if, okay, so let's grant your point, even though I think my point kind of wasn't really fully addressed there. Let's grant it just to move on for a split second. Even if that, like, he's not saying that just because the people I live with broke the law by forging fake documents means I have to endorse when other people break that law as well. He could be.
It's not that he endorses that the other people break that law. In a world where Superman exists and ICE is actually a real thing, who do you think is the front runner of ICE? Do you think? Not, it wouldn't be Trump. It would be Lex Luthor in this world, right?
Absolutely not. No.
Absolutely not. Lex Luthor wouldn't be the corrupt politician who wants to kick out all the undocumented immigrants, including namely Superman. He would 100% be. Where would Lex Luthor? Where would Lex Luthor
when
be?
Lex Luthor or other comic book villains have gotten in charge of the government, what they tend to do is protect the criminals. They do things like defund the police, depower the police, let judges make judgments to let criminals out onto the street. They do bail reform to make it so if you rob somebody at gunpoint, you're out that day. They do things to protect the criminals once they get into power. And
what's the percentage of American citizens that consider undocumented immigrants criminals?
Wait, hold on. Let me ask a question. Are you saying you said other villains have done that? Is that what Lex Luthor has done, though?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's different iterations where Lex Luthor has come into power. There's certain comics where, yes, he did enable the bad guys to have a leg up. There's another version of comics where Lex Luthor's the good guy, becomes president, and the world actually becomes a utopia. So it could be argued either way. I'm just kind of, when evil Lex Luthor took power, yes, he advanced his own interests and the interest of allowing bad guys to do bad things.
Which in this world, I think at least a majority of citizens would consider ICE to be the bad guys doing bad things.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Really? Because even within the right, you guys are split, and then on the left, I know it's anti-ICE. So how do you figure that the majority of people aren't against the immigration policy as the way it stands, kicking out just random? People don't consider undocumented immigrants as just criminals, right? They want the criminals the bad. We were promised gangsters being kicked out, drug dealers, so on and so forth. We weren't talking about going to Home Depot and kicking out people.
Like, at the end of the day, Trump said all of them need to go, but that's regardless of it. I don't see anywhere showing me that ICE's popularity, they have a net of popularity in February 2025 of plus 15 at 54% favorability, 39% opposed. But even if you oppose their actions, that doesn't mean you're against them and you deem them evil. Most people just think they're going a little bit too far. You are letting that unfavorable number do a lot of heavy lifting. If that 39% to you means
it's not that they deem them evil, it's that they deem the way that they're going about things evil. They don't agree with the fact that they were just kicking out, once again, just every undocumented immigrant. We don't consider them to be criminals in the same way that we consider like drug dealers to be criminals or murderers to be criminals.
Maybe you can think that they're going a bit too far, but they still generally back.
Which is why I don't think he would stand with them. He wouldn't just be kicking out in a world where ICE exists. Superman isn't going to go around masked kicking out undocumented immigrants just for the sake of.
Absolutely not.
To fight, yeah.
But
in this world, Lex Luthor would be the front runner. This affects the citizens and the people, and then Superman would be fighting against that.
They let the third, fourth stringers kick out the illegals. What they would be doing is they'd be in Mexico and these South American countries fighting the cartel that's making $13 billion a year, trafficking people here, sexually assaulting most of the women that they bring up, bringing drugs into the country, overloading us with fentanyl, which has seen overdoses from opiates spike through the roof. The people that are actually profiting off of bringing these people here that are being expelled, that are being turned down at the border, are the ones that the actual superheroes be fighting against. So the root cause of the problem. They would have third stringers actually going around and deporting people. probably with masks on too, because superheroes and ICE wear masks for the exact same reasons, to protect their families.
See, Clark Kent wears the mask, not Superman. Superman shows his face because Superman isn't
Well, they
afraid.
both
Superman
do.
stands for the justice. No, I think Superman would stand with the people who are hurt and affected by their families being kicked out. And when they feel that, especially the people who are awaiting asylum, the people who are doing things correctly, going to court, waiting for their paper, for their cases to be taken care of and being rounded up in front of the courts. I think he would stand with the families in the distraught. I don't think he would stand with the people doing the destruction amongst the citizens. I think he'd stand with the protesters, not in the violence, but he would definitely stand with the people. I think Superman, especially Clark Kent, sees himself as the undocumented immigrant. He in Smallville, he refers to himself as Kal-El, and in the earlier season, when he's addressing the White House, he says, "I am an alien. Call me Kal-El." And in earlier seasons, he literally harbors a fugitive. When his mother, the cops come to the door, his mother tells him, "Hey, we have to take him to turn him in." And then Clark says, "No, you harbored me. You forged my documents. Was that wrong?" She goes, "No, that's different. I had to protect you." He goes, "I have to protect him. He's just trying to see his mom. He just wants to find his mom. That's all he's trying to do." And that would be the majority of I would say a majority of citizens see that plight for undocumented immigrants and would stand with that.
See, that's the thing, is I think of the canonical Superman that's from day one, because I went through the golden and silver era.
Yeah, Superman evolves. He was propaganda before, and then now, but
Superman.
look at the person he is today.
No, I'm still I could go into after New 52, because New 52 we saw like a very young, skeptical, almost rebellious Superman. So it was kind of an experiment on the character. After that, they went back to the modern era where they upgraded him back to an older man, and he went back to this nationalist figure that like fought with the armed forces, fought against terrorist groups and things of that.
I'm not saying he doesn't fight against. I'm not saying he doesn't fight with. I'm not saying he doesn't support law and order.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Well,
I'm just saying that's not what he stands for. He doesn't stand for law and order.
At one point, he quit being a U.S. citizen. I'm looking for the comic that he actually specifically did. That he quit being a U.S. citizen because of all the red tape put in front of him. That red tape is the exact same thing stopping Trump from deporting people that are here illegally, even in a lot of cases, violent ones.
Wait, he quit being a U.S. citizen. What does that mean?
He quit being a U.S. citizen so he didn't have to follow all the regulations holding him back from actually getting the job done of punishing people breaking the law.
So he became an expat to enforce authoritarianism over people. Which canon is this?
Yeah, I'm looking for the comic line right now. It's in my notes. Let me find that for you.
Hold on. Let me ask a question.
Superman.
Well, that brings up a question.
Actually,
Hold on. If he's renouncing his citizenship, wouldn't that go to Ali's case where he's like, "Hey, I don't want to follow the rules. I'm going to do my own thing." Wouldn't that go to his not wanting to support the government in something like that?
Well, see, that's the thing, is the government changed on him during the comic book. I want to say it was. Yeah,
as it does multiple times. It changes throughout the story multiple times, which is why Superman doesn't side with the government. He sides with justice, his justice.
Yeah,
he decides what the justice is. He defies the government all the time.
There was red tape and bureaucracy similar to like judges standing in the way and doing all sorts of blocking activity on the Trump administration. Bureaucracy was standing in the way of him actually going and punishing criminals. So he renounced the United States for doing something kind of similar to what it's doing right now, using the court system and bureaucrats to stop Trump from doing what we've seen from most of these court wins is something he is entitled to do as the president. He's won a lot.
Just because red tape is used on Superman and then red tape is also used on Trump doesn't mean that Trump and Superman are acting for the same reasons and with the same intentions, with the same motives.
Why they're acting in the same way, though, too. It wasn't just
because of government defiance doesn't mean that they have the same intention and motive. Like Superman, like there is no world where Superman wants to just kick out immigrants from the country.
Motive,
right?
They have to have the same action that resulted from it. Is the only point I'm making is Superman's actions that resulted from red tape and bureaucrats stopping him from punishing actual criminals led to him saying, well, you know what? I'm not going to let your red tape slow me down, and I'm going to continue to fight against what's actual criminal. And in this case, it would be the judges actually slowing this down, actually protecting people. The backdoor judge that tried to sneak somebody away from federal enforcement. The judge that kept people in his house. Judges blocking uses of rubber bullets against rioters. Judges like Natty Campbell finding 80% of people not guilty for jury-free trials, and it was well known in New Orleans, so people were just sending her cases when they wanted to get that person off. Like, all sorts of instances of judges letting criminals back on the street. I have 24 examples in here where criminals are being put over the average person. That's something that actually shows a government that's not working for the people, and this is who Superman would be fighting against, is a government actors doing this, not actually expelling people here illegally.
Not in terms of immigration. Superman isn't going to take the government's side in an immigration battle. That isn't what the point of what was the whole point of the Superman movie and recently.
The Red Sun?
No, the 2025, was it Red Sun? I'm not sure.
Red Sun is when he was a communist.
No, I'm talking about the recent Superman movie when he goes and intervenes between Barovia and Jaipur.
That was,
one country's being overtaken by another. He has no reason to have any interference with this, but he goes because he stands with the people that are being taken over. And in this world, I think the people would. I think he would stand against the people being taken over by ICE, the people being invaded upon by ICE, the people being rushed upon with masked. We don't even know their names. So like even police, if we're talking about like the safety, how come police officers aren't masked? And we know that we have badge numbers and but ICE agents can't be are unmasked or are masked.
Well, again, like the masks, we've already covered that to a degree. My camera is just shit in the bed on me. I'm sorry. But masks we've already discussed to a degree.
No, superheroes have super villains that are going to target their family through methodical methods.
Yeah.
Police have the same issue as ICE agents. Then how come they don't wear masks?
They do in a lot of instances. They have been, but normal people have.
Not in general instances.
Villains that are going to target their family and dox them online and say, go harass this person in their home. And we've had tons of instances of that. You say that Superman's not going to toe the government line, but like I have 60, 70 years of all this canonic Superman where he toes the government line. He's working behind the scenes with the government, lying to the people on behalf of the government line. And that goes all the way up to modern.
He goes against the government all the time. So, I mean, I have examples if you just want me to read them off.
I'm just giving you the general bulk of the character. Golden era,
the character grows and evolves. Yes, he started off as propaganda. I don't think he's used as American propaganda today. And so, like, yes, if we want to use the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, I don't even think that's how people today understand him. How many people are actually reading the comics versus just basing their judgment of the character on the movies and the TV shows? I can reference Smallville. I think I'd get more reach with a Smallville reference than a specific comic reference. Especially to the people who would be like listening and watching today.
If you go to somebody and you say, I'm a fan of this band, and they say the classic name 3 songs, and all you can name are the 3 songs off of the best of, then you're not actually a fan. The hero, you can say he changes and evolves, but that doesn't mean that the entire history of the hero just somehow disappears. If somebody writes him poorly, which has been
the hero's written for the time.
I wouldn't say that. The hero was written.
Really, why isn't he just American propaganda today?
He generally was for a long time, actually.
But today, why isn't he today?
I'd say it still is. I'd say if you still follow the canonic
even in the past, how come for Clark Kent they don't make him a politician, they don't make him a cop, they don't make him join the military? He's well equipped for a politician even. They make him well equipped for all of these things. He doesn't choose any of these things. Why doesn't Clark Kent choose power? Why does he choose justice? Why does he choose journalism?
He just wants to be an everyman. That's part of the hero itself. He chooses journalism.
Cops are the everyman, and they help everybody, and they serve the law, and they serve the government. And he could fight from the inside. He could have fought from the inside and changed the military, changed the politics, changed the police force to the way that he sees fit, and he has the abilities to do so. He is the everyman, and he's the best version of the everyman. And yet he doesn't use his powers to do that.
Let me jump in here. We're going to go to the judges.
Because Clark Kent and Superman aren't different. And Clark Kent is an undocumented immigrant, whether you want to address whether you agree to it or not.
Let me pause here. We're going to go to the judges here because it's about that time to get them to ask some questions here. We'll start with Fairy Queen. Do you have any questions for our panelists here?
Yes, I do. So sociologic. I'll start with you. So I hear what you're saying, and I think you're correct that I think that a lot of people probably do identify with like the characters' more recent representations in media than they do probably with like the original like comics. However, like when I think of recent representations of Superman, the James Gunn movie is a definitive shift for me in a recent representation of the character. The two representations that stick out to me the most are the Henry Cavill version of Superman, and then there is, of course, the dark satire of Superman, which is Homelander. And Homelander, like in The Boys, is supposed to be a fascist representation of what Superman could be, and he's not the only example of a dark twist on Superman. We have Bright Eyes, for instance. That's supposed to be a take on like what if Superman was a kid and was bullied in school, okay? And I appreciate like the reference to Smallville because I love Smallville and I think we remember Smallville, but it bear.
Oh, you cut out.
Yeah, oh, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, we heard everybody loves Smallville.
Okay, yep. However, even Smallville is dated. Smallville, I think it's like, isn't it over like 10 or 20 years old at this point? Like, I think the last time, didn't it come out in like the mid 2000s? Am I wrong for thinking that? It was either the mid 2000s or like the late 90s. So,
Yeah.
my question to you is, okay, and I'm just going to put a thumbprint over the James Gunn movie because that is an interesting development in the character. But how can you say that Superman as an idea, the character as we understand him, is a pro-immigrant, would be an anti-ICE character, when we have these representations of the character which are modern, which do have a dark twist on the character, like Homelander, for instance?
Well, Homelander isn't Superman, and even in the like with the Red Sun and Injustice Superman and Ultraman and all these are all like what ifs. And correct me if I'm wrong. And for the Henry Cavill one, because I'm not like a huge Superman guy, when he snaps, it's because someone kills Lois Lane, right? This is like a theory. If this, then that happens. These aren't like what Superman is. They are like spin-offs to what can happen if Superman snaps. If Superman is bad, this can happen, because there's also the Superman Child movie where the kid isn't too happy being on Earth, like the I don't know, it's like weird, it came out a few years ago. But these aren't like what Superman is. They're like potentials of what could happen if Superman was to lose his way. And then I think Homelander would be like the like exact representation of it. He would be the person that would be on ICE. That is literally pro-America, not even pro-America, just pro-him. It just happens to be that America supports him.
Okay. I have a question also directed at Tyler. Tyler, I really would like to hear you answer the question about the journalism, because I think that was a really good point that Ali brought up. Because it is true. There are other characters like throughout like the DC and Marvel universe who could necessarily be in these everyman positions as cops or as judges. And it's not true that and it's not even true. He didn't even just have to be that, right? He could have been a farmer. He could have been a billionaire. Batman was a billionaire. He could have been a lot of things, right? He could have been a politician. Okay. He could have been all sorts of like different positions. Why specifically a journalist? Do you think that like that choice of like profession means anything to the character? And if it does, why would that be pro-ICE as opposed to anti-ICE?
I don't think it has that deep of a meaning. Really, the way it's explained in the comics is it's a reason for him to be the first responder on certain events, like a crime or some sort of mishap. He can say, I was there from the beginning, write his story for it, and also have a reason to be there as Superman. I'm always at this crisis because I'm a reporter. It's my job, is essentially the comic book explanation for it. I don't think that dictates at all. I think that the best arguments I have more fall into the fact that the character is a representation of the will of the government through 80 years of its existence, and even if you do a couple modern tweaks to it, it still has that. I just think that it's a kind of a boring question as to why Superman's a reporter, at least based on the comics.
Yeah, if you separate Clark Kent from Superman, which you can't if he spends most of his time as Clark and part of his time as Superman, Clark informs Superman.
Clark's a lie. Clark Kent is his alien. It's a lie. It's a cover-up. He puts on glasses that obscure what he even looks like. The whole persona is a lie.
To be an everyman, I thought that's what Superman wants to be.
Yeah, but it's a lie. It's not.
Well, it's not a lie. That's who he is. Superman is what he can be. Clark is who he is.
No. Clark Kent is. I mean, it might be some aspect of his actual personality, but the function of Clark Kent is to hide that he's Superman and be able to be out amongst the public. So if it comes into conflict with a personality trait versus hide his identity is going to win every time, forcing him by definition of the secret identity to lie and not be exactly who he is. It's inauthentic. I mean, it doesn't mean it's fully inauthentic, but it's just for a purpose, and the purpose that the comic books actually say is just so he can be a first responder to every crisis and criminal
Which he could have been if he was a fire agent or a cop or an EMT or a detective.
Could he only if he was going to go all over the world? Like, why would a fireman be in Russia?
Detective, spy, work for the government.
Why would a detective show up if a volcano exploded? You know, like, reporter allows him the most amount of freedom. All
right, let's go to Scott. You got any questions here?
Is it canon in a lot of things that Superman actually like works for the U.S.? I thought he just like kind of like he landed here like on U.S. land, but it's not like just for U.S. It's for the entire Earth, right?
Depends on which. Who are you asking?
I mean, I'm asking anyone.
It depends on which comics you're looking at, but generally when he did land here, landed in the United States, all through the Golden Era, as I was saying in my intro, he was straight up wartime propaganda for the United States. All through the Silver Era, he was Cold War propaganda for the United States. New 52, he was still with Star Labs. Star Labs in this universe is a secret military-funded science wing that studies metahumans and does so under the nose of the public without them knowing. It's a deep state function, and he's always worked with Star Labs, I think, in every current iteration of him. So he's still constantly working with the government on that end, yes.
I have another question for Tyler, and I do apologize because I just found this on the fly. And this is through the power of ChatGPT, okay? We're using our sources today. So these numbers may or may not be true, okay? But I've provided the link from which the ChatGPT has claimed to analyze them, okay? If anybody wants to challenge these numbers, okay? According to what I've looked for, I've just looked at like how all these Superman movies have performed. The latest Superman movie in 2025 got a $599 million for worldwide gross. That's compared to $291 million for Man of Steel in 2013. Batman versus Superman is $873 million, but honestly, I think that's probably mostly just because of Batman. There's a reason his name comes first. And then in 2006, worldwide gross was $200 million. When you look at Superman from 1978, we see that the worldwide gross is $300 million. Okay. And I don't know that you can easily reduce this down to simply being that like movie companies have like a wider spread, because I'm looking at the 2013 number right here. That is significantly different in terms of how much people seem to like this movie, more so than they did the 2013 movie. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that the 2025 movie had a definitely pro-immigrant message. If you watch the movie, very blatantly so if you watch it. So, Tyler, if what you're saying is true, if it's actually true that not just that the history of the character is understood to be, okay, and not just pro-American, but pro-American government, pro on the side of what the American government wants to do, well, I'm looking at these numbers here. It seems that like this version of Superman is more wildly popular. Except with the exception of the Batman versus Superman, which I think that mostly has to do with people wanting to see these two guys fight. So all these other famous Superman movies that I'm seeing here just right off the fly, and I'll admit it's off the fly, they made less money. They seem to have been less popular. So why is it that this Superman movie in particular was so much more, vastly more popular, if that's the case?
Well, I got a few answers to that. I don't know which way I want to go on it. But if you said $300 million in 1970 is what Superman made?
1978. And again, the numbers could be wrong. I accept they could be wrong. That I provided the link from which they come from.
Well, I mean, if you kind of factor in inflation to that, it's 1.5 billion today. That movie.
It says that it's adjusted for inflation.
Oh fuck! Okay, that ruins that. Okay, so I'm moving on to the next argument. So I wouldn't know. I wouldn't say the popularity there is best assessed through how much the movie's made, so much in that we have a new director starting a new universe for DC he made a good popular DC movie prior, a decently popular show on HBO, and his Marvel work was some of the best. I think that people are giving this director a new chance with his movies, where once you saw Zack Snyder's movies, it left a little bit, unless you're a Snyderverse guy, it left a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth, and you can kind of see a steady decline from those movies coming out. But yeah, Batman is infinitely more popular. He's going to pull people in too. But I wouldn't base popularity so much on just how much this made, because there's other outstanding factors. And I really think James Gunn was the selling point on this movie more than anything. Even Superman, the actors
forget the numbers. Forget the numbers. Take the premise, right? Like I said, Superman is written for the time. So yes, original Superman, hyper propaganda. Superman for the time is written as pro-immigrant. And so that is how he's being seen, and that's how he's shifted and changed. I know that you want to separate Clark Kent from Superman. I know that you don't want to consider him an undocumented immigrant in the same way that we consider Mexicans or illegals as undocumented immigrants. But he is by his parents have to hide him from the government unless they take him away. They have to forge his papers so they don't lose him, so they don't go to jail. Like, these are things that are taken into consideration when if these things didn't matter, if Clark Kent doesn't matter, we don't write Clark Kent. If Peter doesn't matter, we only write Spider-Man. In the movie, the persona matters as much, if not more, than the hero, because the persona shapes the hero.
Very quick.
The person isn't a hero until they become a hero. They're a person first.
Yeah, very quickly though. Can you tell me where in the movie that it kind of gives you this idea that Superman is pro-immigration?
Well, not pro-immigration. I guess against immigration and government takeover, especially in the fact that in this world, in this movie, Lex Luthor is the one who's supporting the takeover. And I truly believe in any version of a world in a universe where Superman is involved, that Lex Luthor would be the one in charge, and he would be the one fronting ICE.
Anti-war. I don't think it has anything to do with legal or illegal immigration.
To be fair, I kind of piggybacked off of Fairy Queen saying anti-immigration. So I will. I mean, at least the reaction to it, what came through. But my argument still stands that in a world, in the Superman universe, in any universe that you can give, it would be Lex Luthor who's in the front of the head of the government. You tried to liken Trump to Superman. Lex Luthor would be Trump. That is what would happen. And this is a universe where people are.
You're saying Trump's a genius.
I'm saying Trump is seen as a villain. And if Trump is seen as the villain, this is the world that we're working out. I can't see a world where Lex Luthor is sitting on the sideline watching Superman kick out immigrants when Lex Luthor is dying to kick Superman out, dying to defeat immigrants. He does not believe Superman is one of them.
No, he wants Superman dead because he wants humanity to advance. He thinks he's holding back humanity as an invader from another planet.
As an invader and in the same way that ICE and Trump see immigrants as invaders from other countries. It's just one word is planet, one word is country. You see them as different. I think everyone
has the one world philosophy that humanity is one world. It's Lex Luthor.
Is Clark Kent an illegal immigrant or no?
I wouldn't say that by the traditional definition.
So he's an American citizen?
No, not naturally. No, but he's not part of tradition.
But he has papers. He has Social Security. He has a job. Because he has a job. He has papers. He has everything. Is he not? How is he? What differentiates him? He's a fucking superhero. He should be the number one. He was used as American propaganda. He should be the number one American citizen. Why wasn't he written as an American citizen?
You've asked that 4 times. You got to let me write it or answer it at some point. Because he was an orphan that was jettisoned out of a planet that was about to explode. He doesn't come from another country. He didn't sneak into this country. He didn't have somebody knowingly sneak him into this country.
So he's a DACA recipient.
Go back to.
Wait, how do you get to Earth?
He got shot here.
By
his
who?
parents who died.
So it's so oh my god, so we had a group of people have a child in our country, leave this child in our country and then leave? Yeah, so okay, so he's a DACA recipient?
No.
So
He never left their planet.
What do you mean he never left the planet?
The parents never left their planet. This wasn't a
They
situation
sent him here.
with human trafficking. See, that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to relate his parents shooting him, jettisoning him off of his exploding planet to
Is he an illegal immigrant? Is Clark Kent an illegal immigrant or not?
children into the United States, illegally trafficking children into the
And I'm not. No. You keep bringing the trafficking children part. It can be any illegal. It can be someone who walked over the border, overstayed their papers, flew over from one country to another, and overstayed their papers. Is he a legal immigrant or not?
I would say no. We've already gone through this. Not by the classic.
So he's illegal. So he's a legal citizen.
He is not a legal citizen to the United States, but
He has fake papers. Is that legal? Is it legal to have a fake social security number?
Yes.
Fake ID?
Yes, that's illegal. Doing those things is illegal. Yes.
So he's at minimum a criminal.
Yeah.
At minimum a criminal that should be.
Yes, we've already gone through all this. Yes, we went through all this like 20 minutes.
And why is he a criminal? Because of the status of his citizenship. Because the status of his citizenship is that of an illegal immigrant. You can't shift away from it. There's a reason. There's a reason he was written in this way.
It's a gray area because the way that
it's not a gray area. It's a white area.
Hold on.
Black or white.
Hold on. Let him answer.
Yeah, let me answer a single question here. He does not classically fall under this because he is not from another nation that he's actually a citizen of, like illegal immigrants in the United States are. There's nowhere he could go back to. This is an orphan from outer space. This is something that's never been tested in our laws.
He can go somewhere else.
The way our laws work in the United States is we make them retroactively when an event or something happens to prevent it. This has never happened before. It's completely untested ground. We also have
actually, it has happened.
Government for this.
It has happened.
A space person has come down.
Palestinians born in Kuwait as American citizens with asylum can't be deported back to Palestine, and they don't get deported back to Kuwait either. They actually stay as American citizens because there's nowhere to deport them.
Yeah,
but they still get deported. They get deported to America.
Well, I mean, this is somebody that's.
I'm saying he doesn't go through any of the. Clark Kent doesn't go through any of these things. He recognizes himself as an alien. In Smallville, particularly, I'm going to give that as my teenage reference.
As a Kryptonian. Okay, again, you can do that, but at the end of the day, this doesn't fit the classic.
I mean, you're giving me a non-answer. It's like he is an illegal citizen, but he's all right to be here because it's a gray area because he doesn't come from another country. So you're not giving me a solid answer.
I'm telling you how the laws are structured in the United States and how they've never actually run into something like this, which happens quite a bit in law. We have mechanisms to play that out, but you're saying, oh, he's an illegal alien, so he'd allow people to come into the country illegally, knowingly.
I never said he'd support illegal immigration. I said he wouldn't support ICE. This isn't about illegal immigration. This is about ICE.
ICE is literally there to deport illegal immigrants within the country. That's their job. That's their role.
Yeah, he doesn't work with the government or the police. He doesn't work. And Superman doesn't join an agency. Superman is Superman. He has bigger fish to fry. I don't think he would stand with ICE. I don't think he would support ICE in a way. In this universe, I'm telling you, Lex Luthor would be the one supporting ICE.
Has always supported the police, the law enforcement.
He stands with them. He doesn't support them. He doesn't work with them. Why doesn't Clark become a cop?
I can give you all sorts of comic book instances where he works directly with the police.
And I can give you comic book instances where he works against governments and against the police for his own way. He's a vigilante. He's a vigilante. He's a vigilante.
He's an agent that works with Star Labs.
He's not a government agent.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
He's not a government agent.
Let me ask you a question.
Superman is not a government agent.
Hold on, let me ask you a question because y'all have hold on. Y'all been like kind of circling here. Let me ask a question here. Okay, so y'all kind of touched on this, but not really. Fairy Queen also mentioned different versions. I don't know if Homelander and Brightburn are actually apt because they're not DC. But if we use DC only, if we look at the Injustice series, that Superman is identical to this Superman in the mainline comic. And the only difference is the Joker uses the kryptonite fear toxin, and he ends up killing his pregnant wife, Lois. And he snaps, and he becomes dictator of the world and enforces all alliance really hard. All right? That's Superman being authoritarian. We also see examples like Ultraman, who's a super criminal, and doesn't follow any laws, which is the opposite of that, to the extreme. And then you see things like Red Sun, where he lands in Russia and he's devout, following all the law, even kills their version of Batman, all sorts of shit like that. And then Flashpoint Superman, if you follow some of the old DCU, he has a whole different like outlook and different kind of like lineup as well. When we look at the variants, especially when we look at like the Injustice Superman, it's literally the one bad day Joker, where he becomes an authoritarian, and that's basically baked into the new DCU, where they have this fear of what happens, and we hear it time and time again before we even meet Superman in the big screen, where they're like, "What if the president? If he goes in there and just takes over for the president?" And that's kind of what he does here with Johanapur or whatever, and whatever the other country's name is, right? He basically supersedes world law, goes in there. What are your thoughts on if these mainline Superman, or some of them are super authoritarian, while some are on the flip side where they're not? Why is it that it seems like there's a mixed bag here where they're either extremely authoritarian or they're willing to just like break all rules? Like, what is the difference here, and why does it matter in context of if they would enforce immigration law?
Because these variants serve as like cautionary tales. It's a if then this happens, right? And you said the Injustice Superman. Superman doesn't get to that without having something extreme happen, which is Joker killing his pregnant wife, right?
Well, technically, he killed his wife.
Well, I mean, but like, made him do it. So, so basically without that happening, without something extreme breaking the spirit that is Superman, causing him to snap to become the inverse of what he is, that isn't like who Superman is at his core. It's what can become of Superman if broken.
Yeah, those are just fun stories and cool video games and stuff, but they're more just cautionary tales. I don't know if those are a better instance than trying to judge the character based off of like what he actually is, which is it's supposed to be hope. At the end of the day, it's hope, and like hope is something you have when you're fighting against crime or not endorsing criminals and arming them like.
Wait, is enforcing law? Is enforcing law hope?
Generally it's justice, and hope is for the little man. Hope is for the person at the bottom of the pyramid that looks up and thinks that if I stick through it and keep doing things the right way, it's all going to work out for me. So Law and Order is a way to even the playing field in a sense for that little man that's doing everything the right way. I'd say one relies on the other, but they're not the same thing.
How come Superman doesn't stand for law, order in the American way? He stands for truth, justice in the American way. Do you think Clark Kent would be writing pro ICE articles, or do you think he would be investigating ICE and kind of siding with the families that are being affected by ICE, having their families being taken away, whether it be their cousins, whether it be their parents, who do you think Clark Kent would side with? And this informs who Superman is.
That depends, because there's the Daily Bugle in some instances is kind of been considered like a right-wing paper I've seen in certain ways in the past, and other ways left-wing. Yeah. Like, I don't know, because
as we go forward, we see things typically go more left with the superheroes.
I mean, just because one person wrote one story that says
it's not one person, it's multiple people. Once again, I keep beating it, but there's a reason why Clark Kent is written the way Clark Kent is written, and you just want to dismiss it. You dismissed it as like nothing, as like Clark Kent means nothing. His choice in becoming a journalist means something. Him being not born, him being an alien as a baby, taken in by a family who had to forge his documents, who had to harbor him, means something. It's not that it's not that one person is writing in this specific way. The specific way that you're talking about is the propaganda usage. He evolves over time. Back in the original days of comics, sure, we needed him as propaganda. We don't need him as propaganda so much today. We just need him as a beacon of hope and light. And so he evolves over time because he's written with the time. He's written for the people. Clark Kent is an everyman, and he goes with the times. That's what it is. That's why I referenced the Clark. That's why I've been hitting Smallville, because that's the one that I can reference like the most memory to, but also just like that's the one that we see.
I don't know. Again, like we see future versions of Superman, like in Batman Beyond, the cartoon, where societies are nearly crime-free because he's succeeded. Their job is to fight crime, to fight bad people breaking the law, people doing things against the country. Crime is being in the country illegally. Crime is being a member of
Clark Kent is here in the country illegally.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, actually, it's perfect timing. We're gonna go to the judges. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for Ali and I have a question for Tyler. Okay,
Mhm.
so I'll start with Ali. Ali, I am not actually convinced that Lex Luthor, at least in the James Gunn movie, I am not convinced that that is a representation of Donald Trump. I think that I've read
No,
a lot of articles that, if I may,
sorry.
that say that he actually is a representation of Elon Musk.
Yeah,
And this goes, yeah. Well, this goes into what my question is, which is that when I think of like the big villains of Superman, I think of Brainiac, I think of Lex Luthor, and I think of whoever the clone of Superman is. Those are the three big ones.
Bizarro?
Mhm.
And then sometimes Batman, like when there's like the Batman versus Superman, he has the kryptonite and all of that stuff, right? So when I'm thinking about that, when I'm thinking about these three different like iterations, like Brainiac and Lex Luthor especially, these are not representations of government or an evil government. These are representations of evil corporate or technological interests. They're robots, okay, right? Or of like a malformed, misshapen version of like what Superman is supposed to represent, right? And because we're thinking about, because Superman is meant to be a symbol, right? He's a symbol of something real. Because in real life, we don't have people that fly around with red capes and who shoot laser beams out of their eyes, right? So if we're thinking about this in a symbolic way, okay, um, what exactly is it that's in the comics that's implied, that's defeating corporate interests, that's defeating AI in the version of Brainiac, right? What else could it possibly be except for the government? I mean, I hear what you're saying. Like, I understand like what you mean when you say that like Clark Kent is a journalist, and he wasn't selected to be a cop, right? But when I'm thinking about truth, justice in the American way, and when I'm thinking about how we serve justice to institutions that enact evil like policies, in the case of Lex Luthor and Brainiac, right? Evil corporate interests that are trying to pull the strings, or technological pushes that are inhuman and that ignore civil rights. I mean, what else can we ask for actually to intervene? Like, what else could Superman be but the government in these instances? Does that make sense? I don't know if it's a question
No,
that
I'm
makes sense
sorry.
or not.
I don't understand. Like, are you saying that Superman is the government, but like not acting?
I'm saying that, like, if you are in the author's chair, right?
Yeah.
And each of these characters are supposed to be symbols for real life problems, right? So if Lex Luthor is really Elon Musk, or if he's really evil corporate interests, which I think is actually what he was before, like this
Yeah.
iteration, or Brainiac, who is, evil Steve Jobs, which is not actually what he's supposed to represent, but basically evil technology, right?
Mhm.
You're going past like the human condition. And we're trying to defeat that in some way. Well, in the real world, the way that you crack down on evil corporations and on technology, on like say like the cotton gin, like in like the 1860s, the way that you do that is through the government, right? Like, how else could you do
So
that? So
Superman is a
therefore,
representative of the government.
yes, that's kind of what I'm asking. So how could he not be the government then? Like, from this perspective, like,
So
isn't
I'd
like the whole
say,
point? Oh, sorry.
yeah, I would say that it's just it's like a war between the two, right? I think Superman in this case, in the way that you see it, is representing what the government should be or could be, right? The everyman standing for truth and justice versus the opposition, which would be corruption and power, right? Law and order versus truth and justice. I think Lex Luthor and Brainiac would serve to be for law and order, right? Even though they defend the criminals from there, and they are in there, so long as they're in control, they have things in order to in accordance to them. They have the law, they have the power, and I think that's the showing of like a corrupt government, or like how we see government today, or even if we saw how we saw government in the past. And then Superman would be the representative of how we wish government to be, right? Something that acts with truth and justice, and even through Clark Kent being like a journalist in exposing the things that most governments do.
Okay. But then wouldn't you have to bite the bullet then about like what Tyler was saying about like the Silver Age and like the different representations of government? Like, doesn't that mean therefore that like if Superman is the government, like actually like from the author's perspective, I mean, wouldn't that sort of go to support what Tyler was saying earlier?
Well, I mean, I don't see Superman as the government. I'm saying if that's the way that you want to see, even if it is the case, it still changes and grows, right? If Superman is the representation of what the government should be or could be, right? We get the golden age and the old original Superman, where he's just kind of propaganda and is just speaking for the government, to what we get today, which is more of a representation of potentially what the citizen would want and how the citizen feels in actuality.
That makes sense. I'm really thinking about it more from the perspective of the author's intent, which brings
Yeah,
me,
and
Tyler. Yeah,
yeah,
and I'm going to
sure.
ask you the same question in a little bit differently. Okay, so Tyler, when I'm thinking about, and I heard, and I think you did a really good job of going through a lot of evidence and a lot of the different iterations of Superman. But I have a question for you about like the purpose and intent of Superman as a character, as he was initially drawn up. Okay, by since Siegel and Schuster. Okay, they were both sons of Jewish Lithuanian immigrants who escaped Eastern European pogroms. I think there are many articles that you can find that say that Superman was deliberately created as a character because even though these two spindly guys couldn't go off and fight Hitler, they could create a character in the form of Superman, a liberal, the Ubermensch of liberalism, to go and to fight Adolf Hitler off in Germany. Okay. So when we're thinking about, and I do think that the evidence that you brought up about like the different iterations of Superman is important, right? But if I'm looking at like the original creation of the first Superman, and if this first Superman is meant to be understood as the stand of an immigrant in the face of an oppressive government regime that is oppressing immigrants, like from this perspective, I don't know that I'm sold, okay? That like even if the history of the character does warp and change throughout like the 20th century, if this is the original intent of the character, how could it possibly not be a pro-immigrant stance? Even if you want, you could even take this like when discussing
Oh, you cut out again.
represent liberalism like from the United States. That
Oh, you're gone again.
Oh, sorry. I was unmuted. I'm back. I'm kind of like rambling, but basically I'm asking you the question of authorial intent. How do you address that? How do you address the fact that the inspiration of the character clearly came from Siegel and Schuster, who were the sons of Jewish Lithuanian immigrants? How do you address that?
Well, there's a couple cheap things I could say about Trump and being very pro-Israel, but those aside, I think that it lines up with the party's intent because the administration itself is pro-immigrant as well. They are just anti-illegal immigrants. They are currently working on trying to expand the amount of visas that we take in. So the framing that the government right now is anti-immigrant generally versus just trying to remove illegals from the country is probably how I'd go with that. It's not the greatest answer to give you for your question, but it's more because they're following deportation laws, because they're generally, there was some Garcia mix-up, but they ended up bringing him back, but generally because they're following the laws in the books, some of which have been in the books for 70, 80, 100 more years, they're doing what is allowed and required of them. A lot of these things, again, the INA has been around since the 50s, the AEA has been around since the 1800s. Both of these have gone through the SCOTUS several times. They're American law, and they're in ways, one of them's older than Superman, and one of them was used during the Silver Age when Superman was extremely pro-government as a character. These actions being taken, I would say, line up with the intent of the character, at least in older versions. And I see this as a separating of illegals versus immigrants generally. People that come in, do everything the right way, don't fall under the context of what ICE is doing, so I don't know if they would be included in that per se.
All right, Scott, you got another one?
Yeah, I guess I was just going to have the cheap retort back to the Israel point, which is that Israel was founded in 1948, and the character was originally written in 1930, in the 30s. So it would have been long before Israel was even founded as a state. Zionism, as we understand it, didn't really exist
Trump
when the character was created. So,
did you have a question, Sky? No. Okay, I have a question since we keep talking about the new Superman. And he's tangentially, if not more than tangentially, based off what Green Lantern and them say, aligned with the Justice Gang, which are corporate superheroes, of a competitor to their Elon Musk stand-in. They would undoubtedly, even though they help at the end, help the Israeli and they help the Palestinians, they undoubtedly would support standing up to ICE, not standing up to ICE, standing for ICE and with ICE, if the Justice Gang, who are basically the fill-in for the Justice League at the moment, would support ICE, unquestionably, because they would just do it for the money it paid. And Superman's aligned with them, Ali. How can you say in the new movie that Superman wouldn't be supportive of ICE?
You just said they do it to get paid, and I think Superman would see through that.
Yeah, but if
they're just doing it to get paid, I don't think he aligns with just getting paid. Superman doesn't care to get paid. Superman cares to stand with the truth. It doesn't matter. I think he would go against whoever is.
So you're saying that he would go against his own allies in this situation?
If his allies are corrupt and doing it for the money, yeah.
But they're not corrupt. They're the Justice.
Well, you said they don't care and they're just going to do it to get paid. So yeah, that is corrupt justice, in the eyes. That's not an actual representation of justice. That's a representation of corruption. You can be paid to have whatever perception needed.
Mm-hmm. Would you support that assessment, Tyler?
No, I'd say that they're following the laws that are on the books if they're working with ICE. And what the president, who was elected probably arguably the number one, if not the number two most important election issue based on exit polling, was illegal immigration, where the vast majority, I think it was 54%, even including majority of Hispanics, were on the side of mass deportations of people here illegally. So
what was that percentage?
I think it was 54% of the general public, and I think it was like 48 to 44 Hispanics. Or something
so half
like
and half.
A little more than half, yeah.
Yeah.
We're on the side of mass deportation of people here that cross the southern border illegally. So if we're talking about the people, this is what the people want. When you're talking about crime in particular, crime's an 80-20 issue. People want more police funding. They want more police in their neighborhoods. They want less crime. That's very apparent. We went through that a few years back where we got to see all that polling too. So I said something incorrect. Superman left the United States in Superman 247. Must there be a Superman? Not the Black Ring. I messed up one of my citations. But Black Ring is one of the ones where he starts ignoring the laws and goes evil. I'm just looking at some of these. So tell me this. If Lex Luthor was in power, would he do something like tell the police they have a quota on how many criminals they can arrest in a day, and then after that they can't arrest criminals anymore? Do you think that would be something you'd see when a bad guy was in power?
Potentially, depending on what era of Lex Luthor you have and who he's trying to protect.
Something that Joe Biden did with ICE, saying that they had a quota with how many people could be arrested illegally in the United States daily, and anyone they found after that, they were no longer allowed to pursue or arrest because they'd already arrested that many that year. That's telling the police you're no longer allowed to do your job.
ICE is the police?
They are a version, yes. They're a police force.
They're not a police force.
Yeah, they are.
There's at least 9 months of training and a test to be a cop. You tell 12 weeks training and a pulse, and you can become an ICE agent. I wouldn't compare them to the police, or some people compare them to the CIA or It's like they're just bodyguards. They're
generally we're splitting hairs on definitions.
We're not. Let's not liken people just to give them they're not a police force.
They are.
Are they cops? Are they police? What's their badge number?
Trump is the top cop in the United States.
What's their badge number?
That's how a local precinct works.
They're not equivalent to police. They have one specific task they do. They cannot arrest you. They're not they don't handle municipals. They're literally only there to arrest undocumented immigrants and put them somewhere. That's their whole job.
Yeah, well, they have the powers.
12 weeks training and a pulse. They're not cops.
They have the civil immunities. They're not police. Of police force.
What about they're not police? The term police means something. An ICE agent means something. You can't just equivocate the two.
What about a border patrol agent? They work hand in hand with ICE under the umbrella of ICE a lot of times. Would you say they're not police?
I didn't think this was up for dispute.
They go to police training. Are they cops? I don't know too much specifically about border agents. I never really looked it up.
Yeah, they do all that.
Trump is the top police officer in the country.
Where agents are cops. Just because you work hand in hand with someone who isn't a cop doesn't mean that you're not a cop.
Trump is the top police officer in the country. It's one of the roles of the presidency.
Yeah, I know. If we're just going to use words to mean
number.
Anything.
That's his role as the presidency.
As a police officer?
Is. He's he is the federal police executive. Yes, he is the top cop of the country. It's a role of the presidency, yes.
And we recognize that to mean police and cops. So ICE agents are cops.
Generally, they're a police force. They have the same powers.
Bounty hunters are cops?
No.
Why? They're doing the same job as police. They're going and catching bad guys and bringing them to the police station.
Government sanctioned.
All right, let's.
So just because you're not government sanctioned,
I just went and Googled it. They're police force, dog.
Let's go to closings here. Tyler started, so I'll let you start us off. You got 3 minutes. Starting whenever you start.
I mean, once again, if we're going to use Tyler's description of Superman as the government agent, then regardless of it, the propaganda, Superman still evolves as a person, right? We in this debate, it was tough because you denied Clark Kent meaning anything to who Superman is, even though Clark Kent is the person that Superman lives as, and this person would inform who Superman is. That meant nothing. We denied the fact and just walked around the fact that that Clark Kent is an illegal immigrant, right? Because he's not from another country, he's from another planet, and yet he still has to have forged papers, forged documents. His parents are still technically harboring a fugitive, except you just don't see him as a fugitive. But he is a criminal, and he is an illegal citizen, but he's not an illegal citizen, so we just have a non-status citizen walking around with no judgment just based off the fact that he comes from another country, and our laws don't abide by that. Even though if we had the laws at the time, his if that were to like matter, his parents would have went in, claimed him as an oh, we don't have the law to kick him out. We just found him. He's an alien. He's ours. No, but the government would have taken him away because they know he's not here. He's not theirs. We can't just have an undocumented person running around. So at baseline, Clark Kent is a criminal, right? And if Clark Kent baseline is a criminal, this informs who he becomes in his job and his career, who he is as a person. When he harbors the fugitive in Smallville, when he goes on and he declares to the White House that he is, Kal-El, an alien, right? When he grows up to become a journalist, not a politician, not a police, not in the army, none of these places. There's plenty of places where he could be a first responder. And for global reach, Gibbs, he could have been a spy, right? He could have worked directly within the government. When they found out as Superman, even as Superman, he doesn't get a job in the government as Superman. He's just Superman, the defender of truth and justice. He goes around the world. He has no jurisdiction because you can't control him. So, and even in the movies where it is illegal, like when the people don't want him, he still stands up for truth and justice because he knows at the end of the day, the corruption rules the government. It's not him. He doesn't stand for law and order. So it's just, there wasn't any point demonstrated where he would stand with ICE. And it's just the complete, you didn't even oh my God, engage with the fact that, once again, the illegal immigrant policy, you just kind of skirted it off. Who Clark Kent is as a person, you kind of skirted it off. And so if that's the case, then you just see Superman as the propaganda, not Superman as the person, as the representation of what he's supposed to be, the full-bodied character, because that's who he's written as. He's written as Clark Kent first. You can't separate the person from the hero. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. And also, before Tyler goes, everybody, as soon as Tyler finishes, a poll will be up. So y'all vote. Judges, send me who won whenever he finishes in a DM. And then after the poll, we will go through who won and why afterwards. Go ahead, Tyler, whenever you're ready.
All right, so I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because about 20 minutes of the debate just got erased with a few statements. We went in depth with the illegal immigrant. I explained why it doesn't fit under our laws, how we would handle that, and even if we granted the point, it's irrelevant because it doesn't mean just because he's an illegal immigrant means he'd allow people to break the laws in the United States. It means he would ignore the coyotes that were bringing people in, that are illegal terrorists that are also within the country. We went into that in depth, so saying it was ignored when I feel like it was greatly addressed and just kind of like an irrelevant point, I don't know, but I went through plenty of examples upon inception where Superman was not only working hand in hand with the military, the police, and all different forces of the government, like spies and different espionage groups, intel groups, and things of that nature, all through his inception for 60 years of the comic. And then when he wasn't doing that anymore, he is working with Star Labs, who was funded by the government, who he takes his orders from the president. In iterations of Superman that took place, he was going to court. He was in court answering to the United States government for his actions. He is accountable to them. Now, there are instances when they tried to make one comic book, they tried to make all the superheroes register with the U.S. government. He was against it. There are instances of this. There was non-canon instances as well, but generally he is working on behalf of the government. We have instances right now where you're looking at who is the corrupt government he would be working against. We just were told that it was the Trump administration deporting illegal immigrants as the people want, the people voted for, and as the laws say. There was not a single example given of how they were abusing this or how they were going over. Whereas I went through a ton of examples of people breaking the law to protect violent criminals, and there's tons more. There's judges, there's politicians, there's all sorts of people working to protect violent criminals. There were laws put in place where they were told you can only arrest a certain amount of criminals a day, and the rest, if you see them, you just got to let them go free. This is not something that would align with the hero Superman. If he saw the cops letting criminals go because they reached a quota, he'd say, why is there a quota on how many illegal people you can arrest? That'd be insane. Now, Superman wouldn't be out there deporting. He would be fighting the cartels south of the border who are bringing in children, who are committing illegal crimes, who are flooding our borders with fentanyl, who are making $12 billion a year off the human trafficking, bringing these people here in the first place. We're talking about illegal immigrants. He wouldn't be doing that fight. That's something the third stringers would be doing as he battled the actual terrorists that are causing this problem in the first place. 100% on the side of the government, as he's always been. And ICE is doing nothing wrong.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, judges, see who won. The poll is up now, chat. Make sure y'all vote and tell me who y'all think won in the chat. And we'll go from there. That was a good one. That was interesting.
Thank you, Tyler, for accepting this. This was fun. This was fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we never get to do stuff like this. Everyone's always so serious. We got to talk comic books and stuff.
Mind you, now that it's over, I'm not even particularly a Superman fan. It's just
I am a Superman fan, and I fucking hate y'all for this. This was a terrible, terrible goddamn debate. I'm very disappointed in both of you. Actually, not really. I do wish y'all had talked about the variants quite a bit more. Like, the Fairy Queen, you brought up the other variants, like, that are, like, non-DC. You know, you left out Omni-Man, which would have been a point, like, which would have been a good one to bring up, too. But I didn't think they were super pertinent just because they are like what if scenarios almost, because they don't have any crossover with Superman or DC. However, I think there's enough DC ones that would like kind of like throw it into a mix, right? Like when you start talking about like Red Sun would absolutely be the important interference, right? Like, you know, Ultraman, he would probably be working with the cartels, like you know, like I like against the government. It's like, you know, it really just depends quite a bit. Like, I don't know. I find that kind of interesting. Or what was Owlman's version? Where that wasn't Ultraman. That was the Justice Lords. The Justice Lords would absolutely also be like, you know, pro, you know, and I think really with Injustice, like that one's the one that really gets me because it's like only one change like to the storyline, and he goes extreme authoritarian, like
it's a major though. So like I had like a pre-debate with GBT, and like I use these like those three specifically, and just every single time there's so like Red Sun, he lands in fucking in Russia, right? Like the people that raised him aren't going to necessarily be the people who raised Clark Kent in Kansas. So like that's the only reason you get these like variants. It's like something has to for the Injustice. It's a pretty fucking dramatic shift, right? This is Superman. I'm pretty sure Superman doesn't kill, and he kills Lois Lane, who's pregnant with his child. That's like the one thing that's going to be the only thing that breaks him to get into these into that space. So it's just that it's not.
Well, I mean,
spirit. Superman could be if broken. Once again, that's the only issue with those.
Well, I mean, I think like it's interesting. The Superman, if he's broken, one's interesting to me. But like, I think the Red Sun one is kind of interesting because you know he's still like it's like the nature versus nurture. How much of your personality is really nature versus how much is, you know, nurture kind of thing. Like that's a really interesting.
if he thinks communism is the truth, right? If he's like your nature is to fight for like truth and justice. That's like who Superman is like in the nature, like to be part of these things. But then if you're raised in a world where you believe that the truth and justice is like, for example, like, you know, Soviet communist Russia, right? Like, then that's what you're going to fight for.
All right. Well, this guy's a very important debate for all the people here. Ali is trying to get out of his first win, and Tyler's trying to stay above 0.500. And you know, this is a rematch here. So the chat has decided a sociological one. So now we have to go to our judges to see who has won. So let's start with Fairy Queen.
Won
Who
the
won?
Chat twice. Thank you, chat.
Yeah, who has won and why? Let's start with you, Fairy Queen.
Okay. So I want to be very, very clear because I really tried to make this as I guess objective, quote unquote, as it's possible to be. Okay. I want to say, like, I'll tell you whose argument persuaded me more, but that does not mean that that person won. Okay, because I use a very specific rubric when I was grading both of you. Okay, that has multiple components to it. Okay, so I'm going to go through each part of the rubric that I graded with you. I'm going to explain why I gave you the points that I did. So I'm going to start with Ali. Ali, I gave you an 8 for thesis clarity. I felt that, like, I could understand, I knew what your thesis was, but I felt that it was kind of broad. I felt that it was a bit general. I wanted something a little more specific. Like, I know it's very elementary, but like in one sentence, this is, I argue blah because blah, 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 right? It sounds very elementary, but like it's easier for like me and to grade. I'm a teacher, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. Or for other people to like follow along. Tyler, for you, I also gave you an 8. Same thing. You had a lot of really other good stuff too, and I got your argument, but I also felt that the actual thesis could have been more clearly stated at the very beginning. So you both got 8s for that. Tyler, for evidence, I gave you a 9, okay, out of 10. I felt that a real strength of Tyler, like, you brought a lot of good evidence. You always do a ton of research before you ever come to a debate, and that really shined through. Like, you clearly did a lot of homework before you showed up today. That was very obvious, and so you get a 9 for that. Ali, I'm sorry, dude, but I gave you a 7. And the reason why is because you did do your homework. I could tell that, right? I could tell you brought up some really good examples. You brought up Smallville, right? You brought up like various different, about the Henry Cavill movie, but I felt that it was relatively unspecific. I felt that you could have brought more research into it. I felt that maybe having more eye statistics, like having all of your like research in like a bank to sort of refer back to, that would have really helped to boost your point more. And I think that, like, going back, even if though I agree with you that most people think of Superman as a modern day character, it would have helped to have had a more broad historical overview for you to have gone through that. So for that reason, you get a 7 for that. For reasoning and analysis, if you guys want me to just skip to the end, I can. For reasoning and analysis, I gave, let's see, Ali, I think I gave you, because this is the third thing, right? 1, 2, 3. Yep, I gave you a 7 for that. Okay. I felt that, like, you had like good reasoning present, but sometimes it was kind of unclear. You know, I felt like it wasn't always quite consistent as you were speaking. Same thing for Tyler. Let's see, for Tyler, I gave you, no, actually I switched that around. Okay, so no, Ali, I gave you the 8. Okay, you got the 8, clear reasoning, but sometimes undeveloped. For 7, I gave that to Tyler. Okay, because even though I did think that you had really good evidence, I also felt that your reasoning wasn't always the greatest. Ali, I thought that you really shined during the refutation. The refutation, I thought that you did a really good job of arguing up against Tyler. I thought that you had a lot of really good points. I thought that you did a really good job of responding back to him. I felt that you did a really good job mentioning the opposition, engaging with all of the points and beating back at him. Tyler, I felt that was something that you could have focused on. You did a really good job of bringing up lots of points and lots of data to respond back to Ali. But I think that one thing that Ali did better than you is, I think he did better with pathos, and I think he had better ethos. I think he had better rhetorical use, like, throughout like his arguments. So that's something just to be aware of, like, when you go back. As far as persuasiveness, I felt that Ali, I felt that I was more persuaded by Ali, but I am biased, okay? I still felt that like maybe somebody that agreed with Tyler probably would have been persuaded by Tyler. And again, as I stated, I think that Ali did a better job, okay, with rhetorical appeals generally, okay? The one thing I will say, okay, so clarity of speech, Tyler, this is not to be mean, but sometimes when you speak, you have filler words. So you use like, and I do the same thing all the time. Like when I speak, sometimes you use filler words like, okay? You lose a lot of words like that. I would try to cutting out more of that and being more careful and precise with your speech. That was something that I noticed. I think probably it was that like you were trying to think through something that Ali said to you. And so you were trying to think of like a response to say. I would just try, like I know like we all use ChatGPT. It's an open secret. Try to think of some canned answers that you have to some probable questions that people might come up with, and then just read them off. I think that might help like for the future. Organization and flow. Ali, I'll be honest with you, okay? I thought that was something that you could have really improved on. Tyler did a really good job with organizing his points. Everything had a really good flow, logical structure. That's something I really wanted to see from you. I think that was something that hurt you in this debate, okay? Persuasive. I felt I liked the rhetorical appeals that you made. I agreed with you, but I still felt that it was somehow a bit disconnected at times, okay? Like when you were speaking. So that was something I wanted to see. And style and presence, okay? And I'll be honest, I didn't pay attention to what you were saying. I was paying attention to how you were dressed, okay? And I just be honest with you, okay? Tyler, you have a ponytail that is standing on the end of your head, okay? I'm sorry, Tyler, but this one goes to Ali, okay? Ali, he's got the lamps. He's
Yeah, cut out again.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was just talking about the Labubus, okay? Ali has the Labubus, okay? He's got the lamps. He's got the lighting, okay? All right. I still think, Ali, you could have worn a different shirt, but that's okay. All right. So that's what I think, okay? I think that Ali probably was better with style and presence for the atmosphere and for the style, okay? So that's something Tyler to note. Superman theme, okay? Integration of the theme. Kind of split here. Ali did better with talking about the theme of Superman, but Tyler, I thought, did better with evidence, so it's kind of a wash there. And here's the last point: creativity and originality. So, Ali, okay, I liked and I was agreed with your point, but I wanted to hear something new. I wanted to hear a new original point, like in favor of Superman being, anti-ice that I hadn't heard before. Okay. And that's something that people look for in debates. They look for entertaining new spins on things. So in other debates, like if we use this, and this may be a category, Gibbs, you can tell me if you want me to throw this out, but that's something that I look for. I look for fresh takes on even ideas that I agree with. So in the future, like think of a fresh take on like something like that. Okay. So
I thought my job's take.
I just want y'all to notice that Sky is actually deporting an illegal immigrant right now in her house.
But yeah, I thought the jobs thing was gonna be the take, but I understand your point. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's very, very close, okay? But it does this time go to Tyler because of the evidence, okay? Because the evidence of the structure, okay? But it was very close, okay? Very close, and both of you did very, very well, okay? That is my honest evaluation of both of you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, let's go to Sky. I had a witty comment, but I lost it. So we'll go to Sky. Go ahead.
Okay. I really liked Tyler's integration of different types of Superman and being like old commie era. I gave him a point for that and his persuasion with that. But on more modern things, I gave Socio a point for that. And I believe like the whole undocumented illegal immigrant coming in, even if they're from a different planet, I think it goes in the same rules. I give a point to Socio for that too. So it was like 1-2 for me.
So
I'm a simple guy.
So Socio 1. That's what you're saying on yours.
Yes.
Wow. Now we got Sociologic with his first win. Tyler.
A win. Let's go.
We take it.
Tyler
accept
here.
it.
I was talking to Tyler
Tyler,
before.
you can't persuade me. You can't persuade me by complimenting my Hatsune Miku.
I gotta say, this is gonna be rough for Tyler. Luckily, Tyler is already qualified for our contender series. We have a lot of people with 1 win. We need to get another person with 3 wins since Patumple had to drop out, so we can run the contender series and start having the Algo run matchups. Luckily, Tyler's already qualified for that because I know when I was doing predictions in the fucking Algo, since his Socio's only loss was the Tyler, and it's his only one, and it was basically an unknown. It gives you like an unknown rank, which is like 0.1200 in chess, right? And then like whatever. This is gonna be a crazy drop for poor Tyler here, but it's gonna be a really high jump for Sociologic. But he's turning into Dan Severin. He's just gonna have 157 fights. So that's a good thing, I guess. I like that he's excited about it and not worried about losses. Some of these other guys, they bitch and moan and they cry.
Nah, man.
And they weep and gnash of teeth. And
I know her
can't handle
heart's
losing.
here.
A lot of that. But we're gonna raid Skyana because I'm sure
No,
that's...
I'm ending.
Okay, we're not gonna raid Skyana. We're gonna raid Istini. Because I want to get high and play video games for us tonight and take it easy.
Guys,
Yeah.
thank you. It was awesome to hang out with you guys tonight. Fairy Queen, I actually really appreciated your analysis and your breakdown.
Yeah.
Diana, I
Yeah.
appreciated the point.
Yeah, great,
Yeah.
good point. Good
Everybody
points
go
all
follow
around.
everybody.
Thank you, guys.
I'm
Yep,
not
yep, yep.
super